Hello and welcome along to After Effects Basics with your host Robert Smith. In this video we're going to add a little bit of finesse to it. Now this is quite advanced what we're about to do here. What we've got so far in the first three videos, we created an Illustrator file, brought it into After Effects, animated it, added a little light and added a camera. Now I'm really happy with what I've got, but I just want to make it just for a little bit of fun, really dramatic. Okay, to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a technique called pre-composing. Now, pre-composing would be the subject of a whole video, but basically what it means is you're sort of grouping things together. That's what a pre-compose is. Think of a grouping things in Illustrator and maybe InDesign, whatever. So to do that, I'm going to select my orange right all the way down to my digit guy with the shift key held down. So I've selected those 5 layers like that, and under layer, right down the bottom you'll see a thing called pre-composed. I don't know why it's all the way down there. We use it all the time. And up comes this dialog box. I'm just going to call it logo like that. I'll just accept all the defaults that come with it. And watch what happens to the timeline when I click OK. Now all of those animations are now inside their own comp called logo. Why they called it a pre-comp, it's a little bit confusing. I would have thought grouping it. You notice we have now have a new composition called logo. Now we need to make that a 3D object as well, like that. And as you can see, very nice indeed. Okay, all that animation's happening, and we need to tell that to actually cast shadows. I think that's what we have to do. Yeah, so we just cast the shadows, turn the shadows on for that pre-comp. Now pre-comp's like any other layer. We can animate and do all sorts of fancy things to it. But we've already got a camera animating our logo towards us. I'm going to use what I would call a bit of an advanced technique, something called a null object. Now null objects, let's create one. Let's not talk about it. If I go to layer, new, null object like this. Now what a null object is, it's a nothing. It doesn't have any form at all. It's just a way of connecting and animating something through a second party. Now the definition of a null object will take us all day to talk about that. Let me just show you how to use it. I'm going to grab this null object and just drag it above the logo like this. And I'm going to convert it to a 3D layer as well. Even though it's got no form, you can't see it. That's this little red square here, that's the null object. And I'm going to use something called parenting. So what I'm going to do is, basically, I'm going to parent this logo layer, or this pre-comp, to this null object. And basically, the definition, whatever the null object does, the logo does. And this is a nice way of animating that. So let me, to parent it, it's quite easy. I just go under my logo layer like that, and grab this little thing called the pick whip, which is great. You'll find one of these in Dreamweaver, and just click and drag it onto the null one layer like that. And now you'll see that this logo layer is parented. In other words, whatever the null does, this logo will do. So let's just see what that means. If I open up my transform options for my null object, what I'm going to do is, for example, if I scale the null, you'll notice that the logo scales too, because it does whatever the null object does. And this is a nice way of animating. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm sorry I'm not explaining this too wonderfully, but if you want to look up null objects, and it's quite a complicated process, but to use it simply, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. First of all, I'm on the null object layer now. I've already parented the pre-comp to that. Then I'm just going to put a keyframe in all of those properties at the start, like that. I'm going to zoom up a little bit so I can see it. I'll put a keyframe there, like that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to move to about 2 seconds like this. And I'm going to grab the position, the third number in the position. I'm going to drag it to the right like this. And I'm going to drag it, keep dragging it like this all the way. I'm just dragging that number. Once it gets to 1,000, of course, it's going to go behind the background because the background's 1,000 pixels into space. So now we can't see our logo. Actually, what I need to do is, I've got those 2 keyframes back to front, but that's no problem. to fix that, I'll simply go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, Time Reverse Keyframes. That's better. So now the first keyframe's right out in the distance, and the second keyframe's about here, like that. Very nice indeed. Okay, so now I want to go to this second keyframe. To do that, I'm going to press the letter K, like that, and now I'm at the second keyframe. And in the X rotation, I'm going to change that to 2 rotations, the Y rotation to 3 rotations, and the Z rotation to 1 rotation. Now they're just made up numbers, so just see what that looks like. So as you can see, the logo will now come spinning out towards us like this. It's doing whatever the null object's doing. In this case, it's spinning around like that till it comes into position like that at the start. And I just might zoom it just a little bit more. We quite like that look. Very nice indeed. In fact, what I might do is move all these keyframes by dragging a marquee over them. Just drag them to the left a little bit so it happens a little bit quicker. Let's have a look at that. We like things to happen quickly. It spins towards us because the null object is now in charge. Very nice indeed. And I just want to bring it towards us just a little bit. So I'm going to move my current time indicator right to the end, and in the position I just might zoom it in a little bit, just a fraction. So it's about that big. So I move just a little bit, and let's have a look at that. And there it is. Now what's happening is that null object is the parent of that pre-comp or group, if you like, and whatever the null object does, that's what the pre-comp does because it's a parent. Now that's quite a complicated concept and something you really need to look at if you want to study that, and will be the subject of a series of videos as well. But right now, that's just a lovely little touch you can add to your animated logo, and I reckon that's just about finished. So I'll just play it. As you can see, it does that really fast spin from behind the curtain, and then does its very nice, does a very slight scaling up, if you like, as it gets closer to the camera. Okay, thanks for watching. And now let's just summarize what we've done. We simply made a logo in Illustrator. We brought into After Effects. We animated it by converting them to 3D layers. We then added a light to add a bit of drama to it, and also added a blue solids so it's a bit more legible. We added a camera, and then we used the advanced technique of using a null object to actually animate the whole group all at once. Okay, thanks for watching.